So hello, I'm Sean Wright. I'm reporting on behalf of Ringwalk UK Media, and I'm joined by none other than British, Commonwealth and European champion Chris Billam-Smith. Good to see you, Chris. How's it going?
Yeah, all good, thanks, mate. Sounds good to hear all those titles before my name.
Of course. Obviously, congratulations on your win over Tommy McCarthy just over a week ago. Have you had a little bit of time to reflect and how pleased were you with the way that fight went?
Obviously, really pleased with the result. Pleased with the way I forced the fight, but there's plenty of technical, adaptations I need to make. I sort of tried to force a fight in too much of a way of, where I was making mistakes rather than controlling my attacks a little bit better. And I was looking for one big shot too much, but I know I'm not the finished product yet. So I'm just looking forward to getting back in the gym, to be honest, and putting those things right and just keep progressing, because, it's nice being British, European and Commonwealth champion, but I've got a lot of learning to do before I can win a world title. So that's what I'm looking forward to doing.
I mean, you mentioned there about the way that the fight went and the way that you approached it. Many will feel, of course, that you were the aggressor and you were the one forcing the fight. As always within boxing, it divides opinion, and some of the boxing community thought it was a bit closer than maybe yourself and your team thought it was. How did you feel? Were you quite comfortable in there, knowing that you could take those shots and knowing that you could, force the issue?
Yeah, I think what I was doing is trying to force it a bit too much, and Tommy, caught me some good counters with a couple of shots on the way in, which were eye-catching shots. But the volume of work, the work on the inside, I thought I was pressing it, and I could feel that in there with him, because you could feel him, trying to take rests and holding on when I was trying to force work on the inside. And there's a lot of short stuff and a lot of stuff on the inside which got missed, I feel. Which him and I both felt. So I think how the result was going to, probably because they weren't in there with him, maybe saw the eye-catching shots, and obviously the judges and a few fans saw those and gave him those rounds. But I felt that I felt comfortable, and then I thought I'd won the fight maybe wider than it actually was during the fight. But I said to my corner after I fought, there's no way he won 7 of those 12 rounds, and I think that reflected in the scorecards.
Absolutely. If you didn't already have options, then obviously getting that British and European title to go with the Commonwealth makes you a very attractive proposition. And already we've seen people like Jack Massey on social media saying that he'd stop you and digging out old amateur footage. Is that, he says, there's a score to settle? Do you feel there is a score to settle, or are you focused on a different path?
I mean, surely I'd be the one who would want to settle the score, because he got the decision. But no, I think I've got a target on my back now. Everyone's going to want one apiece, because I've got all the main belts in when it comes to domestic and stuff like that. So that's a real privileged position to be in, and I'm really happy with that, and I really relish being in that. I sort of, having that target on my back. But the decision is in that, because I've got that target, is my choice. He wants a rematch. There's plenty of other people as well. That fight's a good fight, but it's not as marketable as other fights out there. I mean, the rematch it was a great fight, and that's what fans want to see, is great fights. And also, I know I can do a lot better job. So if the rematch is there, I'll give Tommy the rematch. I think it makes exciting for the fans, and to have rematches and stuff, and then we can settle the score that way. But whoever it is next, I'm not that bothered. I said the other night to a few people at the show, I said, it doesn't matter who it is next. It could be Evander Holyfield in his prime, and as long as it's in Bournemouth, I'll take the fight. So for me, that's the most important, is where it is rather than who it is. And I'll let my team decide who it is. But as long as I can get my home show, which I've wanted for a while, then yeah, I'm a happy man.
Good stuff. Just going back to that McCarthy fight, if we may, just briefly, there was a moment before the fight that seemed to go viral with Carl Frampton watching you get your hands wrapped. Do you think that was something? Obviously, he was in Tommy's corner. Do you think that was something that was, in short, trying to unsettle your preparation? And how aware are you, as a fighter, so close to the fight? Are you aware of that sort of situation, or?
We were prepared for it. We knew it was going to happen. What I said to him, I said to Shane and that, as soon as the fight was made, I said, do you know what's going to happen? I knew Tommy and Carl were good friends. Obviously, Tommy's godfather to Carl's children. And then I think someone sent me the tweet, Frampton, saying that he wants to be the bucket boy or whatever. And so I said to them, I said, they're going to stick him in to watch my hands get wrapped. But this is 6 weeks before the fight. So we were prepared for it. You got to be prepared for the mind games and stuff like that. And as expected, Tommy had plenty of things to say in the build-up as well. So yeah, we were prepared for it, and I was just focused on the fight. And it seemed like he was very much focused on the mind games, which didn't work. I was ready. I felt really comfortable beforehand and confident. It's very hard to get in my head. I believe I don't think anyone has succeeded, or I don't think anyone will succeed. It's a fight at the end of the day. You just get in there and do that, and I don't let the mental side of things, affect me. But yeah, so we were prepared for that, and then in he came as expected, and it was what it was. Yeah,
just a word there on Shane McGuigan and that environment at the moment. Obviously, you've got Anthony Fowler on an upward curve. You've got obviously Lawrence Okoli doing fantastic, and he's got a world title now. Daniel Dubois joining the environment as well. It's really thriving, isn't it? And when you add in the wisdom, obviously, of a former world champion like Barry as well, it must be a great place to be at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's at the moment, but always, they've always had world champions in the gym since I've joined. But that's because of who Shane is and who the team are. They're the best in the world at what they do when it comes to training and those sort of things. But also, he doesn't allow you. If you're in the gym, you have to be aiming to be world champion, and so that sets a precedent. So that, yeah, and I think so you're always that gym will always have a huge amount of talent and have world champions in it. And I'm very fortunate to have been given the opportunity to prove my worth in that gym, because I was the least name that's ever entered the gym. And Shane's really worked well with me. We've really gelled as a working relationship and a personal relationship as well. So I'm very fortunate to be in that position, and then now it's nice to repay them with some success.
I think you can really see that. I think you can see the team ethic among you all in that stable. And you mentioned there about previous champions. Obviously, people like George Groves have been in there. And I remember George Groves saying something about Shane where he mentioned that he was able to accentuate a boxer's qualities rather than try and turn him into a McGuigan fighter, if you like. What has he been able to do for you as an individual?
He's developed everything in my game. He's developed my punch power, which is evident. I had one stoppage in the amateurs, and now I've got 10 out of 14 fights as a pro. So, and get billed in a lot of fights as the bigger puncher, which is something I never thought would be the case. But he's taught me how to punch, correctly and hard, and also given me the belief that I can do it, which was the biggest thing for me, because I was always just an out-and-out boxer. But now I believe I can punch, and maybe too much because I'm looking for one-punch knockouts all the time, which isn't the case maybe. So he's developed everything at world level, and as you go up through the levels, then it's more about what you're doing when you're not punching, and how to develop that. And Shane's an expert at that as well. I think you saw that quite a good example of that is George Groves in the Eubank fight. He just took all of Eubank's strengths away from him, just kept walking to the right, and that worked really well against Chris Eubank Jr. So Shane's he's a tactician in the sense of he gets you to do the right things, but he also doesn't have one game plan. He doesn't ever sit you down and go, you have to do this and this only. And he's just like you said about George. What George said is that he just accentuates what you're good at, works on your weaknesses, and just improves your style and adapts it slightly. But never ever is there a McGuigan way of boxing other than that we can all punch hard, thanks to him, and we're always super fit. And people probably get a bit intimidated fighting people from our gym.
Yeah. Obviously, you mentioned there about your style, and you are a sort of boxer puncher, but you obviously are probably the bigger puncher for the most part when you're matched up. You're nicknamed the gentleman, but you sort of anything but that when you step through the ropes. You've been in some pretty exciting fights. I mean, a lot of sort of fight of the year contenders, and you never seem to be in a boring fight. One of those fights that was really exciting was against Richard Riakpo, and I didn't realise until checking that he's actually not fought for nearly 2 years now. Do you think you've been
once since we have? So
yeah, and you've been sort of fighting for the most part like 3 times a year. Do you think you've been so active even during the pandemic and stuff like that? Do you think that's accelerated your development a little bit in comparison to those others domestically?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm probably one of the most active cruiserweights in Britain, if not the most active cruiserweight in Britain. But that's down to my team doing the work and me willing to fight anyone, which I've proven time and time again. So obviously I boxed Craig Glover off the back of the Riakpo loss. We were trying to fight in the Wales we were trying to get a show in Bournemouth originally, but nobody would take the fight. And then I was going to fight Nathan Thorley on a Selby undercard, and then that got moved to fight camp due to the pandemic. Then I was meant to fight Dion Juma, and that fight fell through. Then I was meant to fight him again, and then it fell through again, and I've got obviously boxed Dusar, which was a no-win fight, regardless of unless I stopped him, which nobody seems to be able to do. And then obviously now I fought Tommy McCarthy. So I think the way we're just looking to progress, it's not like anything special. It's just, I'm just looking to keep progressing as a fighter and keep climbing the rankings and keep improving as a boxer and as an athlete. And that's just the way we work. So with that, obviously comes opportunities. We're not scared of fighting anyone. And now I've got the belts. I'm sure there's going to be some more exciting fights, and I like being in exciting fights. Maybe a bit too much for my team and my family's sake. So, but yeah, it's nice that the fans appreciate the work and enjoy watching me fight.
You mentioned there that activity obviously is reap the rewards in terms of the belts that you've got, and those belts that you have got are steeped in history. That's normally the method that people go, but just wanted to pick your brains about the recent talk about the alphabet belts, and some people obviously taking issue with some of the politics in boxing. I just wondered what it's like as a fighter. Do some fighters view it as another opportunity to win a belt, or do they generally feel, or do you feel that there are too many, as in regular, interim, and so on?
Yeah, I think there's too many. I think an interim it means that they're a champion because the actual champion's injured, and then they'll fight them. But now it's like you have an interim champion, you have a super champion with the WBA, you have the regular champion with the WBA, where regular should really be the interim. And then you should only have an interim if the champion's injured. So obviously I've seen Boxing News refuse to call people a world champion now because unless they've got all 4 belts, which I think is fair enough. I'm not one of these people who would want to win a regular world title and call myself a world champion. I want to do it. You want to fight the best and be the best in your division. So yeah, it's I think there is way too many belts, and like I said, I think those belts should be taken out. And then if you're going to have 4 governing bodies, at least only have 1 champion with each governing body at each weight.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think the other problem as well is if you were to hold a full version of that governing body's belt, then you're not recognised by the other organisations, which again must be so difficult for a boxer to comprehend, that just because they don't have that belt.
I mean, I said this to everyone about the WBA. I mean, I think I'm number 2 with the WBA now, and Lawrence isn't even ranked, and he's a world champion. So you got to realise the politics of boxing, and that's ridiculous. He's in my gym, he should be ranked. For me, he's the best cruiserweight in the world. How he's not ranked of a governing body, unless he has a unification, in that, then that's ridiculous, because he deserves to be. He's proved his worth. He's got a belt, but that's the politics of boxing, and that's it. It's a business. So, but at the same time, I can benefit from that and climb up the rankings in one governing body and weave my way towards a world title. So, like I said, I'm a realist, and I know how the business works. Yeah. And that's why I've just got to keep improving. I'm not ready. I've got a lot of learning to do.
You mentioned about the learning there, and you've never shied away from talk about Lawrence obviously having the world title, and you have great spars and learn off each other and pick up different attributes from sparring each other. Now that Daniel Dubois has joined, I know Lawrence has probably got designs long term on the heavyweight division. Have you both managed to have a little spar with him? How I would imagine they're quite tasty.
Sorry, say that last bit again.
Sorry, mate. Have you both managed, yourself and Lawrence both managed to get a bit of sparring with Daniel, or?
Yeah, Lawrence and Daniel have been sparring each other, and I've done a few rounds with Daniel, and he's developing really well on the pads. I've been watching him recently, and he's developing so well as a fighter, like so well. And them two, you know, they're both massive blokes. I mean, Lawrence is huge for cruiserweight. Yeah. And they're going to both benefit off sparring each other as well. So it's an exciting time for the gym and the heavyweight division in British boxing in general, in the cruiserweight and heavyweight divisions.
Most definitely. We've been asking every time we interview industry experts or boxers or coaching staff, in the unlikely event that AJ v Fury actually gets made, how would you see that fight panning out? And first of all, before you answer that, do you think that they'll both come through unscathed in their next fights against Wilder and Usyk?
Yeah, I think the AJ Usyk fight is really interesting. I think AJ should have too much for him, too much power. But if I think he's got to go in with that relentless attitude like he normally does or used to do. He seemed a bit tame at times. He's trying to mix in between styles, but if he goes in there in sort of savage mode and relentless mode, I think he can take him out of there. And I do think Fury beats Wilder again. I think comfortably, but we have seen Fury take his foot off the gas before in certain fights. But I think this is a fight he's up for, and usually when he's up for a fight, then he performs. And then if them two box each other, it's a really interesting fight. It's a real hard one. I think I'd sit on the fence with most people and say it's either AJ by stoppage or Fury on points. I think Fury's shown a lot more in the big fights, and like I said, if he turns it on. So if I had to swing 1% the other way, I'd probably go with Fury, just because he's got that unbeaten thing about him and that air of invincibility about him. But no result would surprise me in that fight. The main thing is that it happens, and it happens as soon as possible, because we don't want a Pacquiao Mayweather situation where we're waiting years and years for the fight to happen.
Yeah. Finally, Chris, we know how big a fan you are of your beloved Bournemouth. I just want to ask you, which is going to come first, a Chris Billam-Smith world title or Bournemouth getting promoted to the Premier League once again?
I genuinely believe we'll get promoted this season. Again, I think Scott Parker's done a really good job. I really enjoyed watching pre-season. I was there Friday night. I actually saw one of the players on Friday before the game, just in a coffee shop, and he was saying he was so confident. And I said, I've really enjoyed watching pre-season. He said, yeah. He goes, we're getting promoted, and it was an assurance you don't usually hear from footballers. They're usually very sort of, what's the word?
Diplomatic. Yeah,
exactly. So they're very well media trained. They don't promise anything, but obviously it was just a general conversation. He might have said something different to a journalist, but he was so confident. And watching pre-season, the way Scott Parker's got the lads running and pressing, and then to get a draw against West Brom the other night, who are going to be up there at the end of the season with probably 4 to 5 first team players missing for us, is a really good result. And we went ahead twice, and on another day we could have held the lead, but I'd say it's. I doubt I'll fight for a world title before the end of the season, and also I'd love to do it on the pitch, so they'll have to finish their season as before I get that chance. But no, I think the boys are doing well this season. So yeah, I think I'd have to pick pick them to get promoted this season before I win a world title.
Fair enough, but you'd settle for fighting at the Vitality, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if in an ideal world, we get a showdown in Bournemouth next, have another fight in March time, and then if I could edge towards the fight at the Vitality in the summer, just after the lads get promoted, that would be absolutely epic. I mean, that's the perfect next year for me. But it's boxing, and a lot can happen. So I've just got to keep working on getting better and improving and keeping the main thing.
Love it. Well, we certainly enjoy watching you, Chris, and congratulations moving forward. We wish you all the best from Ringwalk UK Media, and thanks for your time once again, mate.
Thank you. Cheers, Sean. Appreciate it, mate. Look after yourself.
No problem. You too, mate. Thanks,
Take care, mate.
Chris. Take care, mate. See you later.